Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be delving into some powerful human stories from the Holocaust.
Yeah, it's going to be a journey into survival and resilience and even the fight to preserve culture, in the face of unimaginable horror.
Exactly. And what's so fascinating is we've got personal accounts, diary entries, and historical records to really uncover that human side of it.
And I think those individual stories are such a powerful way to connect with the human impact of the Holocaust.
Absolutely. So we're going to hear those voices from the past and see what we can learn and why it all still matters today.
Because behind those staggering statistics, there were individuals, right, with their own dreams, families, hopes for the future.
Right. So let's start with Irene Vogelweis. She was just 13 years old, living a normal life in Czechoslovakia when the Nazis began to rise to power.
And her diary entries from that time are just chilling. They show how quickly ordinary life can unravel when hate takes hold.
It's true. And the Nazis were masters of propaganda and manipulation, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they gradually escalated their persecution of Jews, starting with seemingly small acts of discrimination like the yellow stars.
Right.
But while they might seem insignificant on their own, they were really part of a calculated strategy to isolate and dehumanize Jews.
And to pave the way for, even more extreme measures.
Exactly.
Irene describes her father, clinging to this belief that if he just followed the rules, his family would be safe. He even went so far as to obtain documents proving his Hungarian citizenship, hoping it would offer them protection.
It's that desperate attempt to appease the Nazis. It highlights the impossible choices that Jewish families face.
Right. They were trapped,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Trapped in a system designed to strip them of their rights and their dignity.
leaving them with so few options.
It's so few options and a dwindling sense of hope, really.
And it wasn't just the Nazis themselves either.
No.
Irene recounts this one terrifying incident. She and her father were on a train, and they were harassed by these young men who were emboldened by, this newfound Nazi authority.
It's frightening.
And the most disturbing part is that nobody on the train intervened.
Yeah.
They just watched in silence.
The apathy of bystanders is a recurring theme in Holocaust history, unfortunately.
That's true. And then the unthinkable happened. The announcement that all Jewish families had to report to a central location with only one suitcase each.
Wow, just one suitcase?
I can't even imagine.
The fear, the confusion, the scramble to pack a lifetime into a single bag.
Right.
This was the beginning of the systematic deportation of Jews to the ghettos and the concentration camps.
Right.
It was a turning point in the escalation of their persecution, for sure.
Irene and her family were crammed into this abandoned brick factory for weeks,
Oh my goodness.
enduring just deplorable conditions and living in constant fear of what was to come.
And that uncertainty, the psychological impact must have been immense.
Absolutely. And the cruelty was often so arbitrary and senseless. Irene describes being forced to shave her head. It was designed to strip her of her identity and dignity. But she had this chilling realization thinking, the hair will grow back. This is the least of it.
It speaks volumes about the normalization of horror that was happening within the Nazi regime.
That's true. And then came the day they were herded onto cattle cars, packed in so tightly they could barely breathe.
And sent on a journey into the unknown.
The terror of arriving in Poland, the rumors they'd heard about the camps, the disbelief that this was happening.
I mean, it's almost impossible to grasp the emotional weight of that moment.
I know.
Denial and disbelief were very common coping mechanisms
Right.
in the face of such unimaginable horror.
Irene describes being met with shouts and commands,
Oh, God.
ordered to leave everything behind and get out as quickly as possible.
This deliberate creation of chaos and disorientation. It was a key tactic employed by the Nazis upon arrival at the camps.
And it's in this chaos that Irene's story takes a truly heartbreaking turn.
Oh, no.
As they were being herded off the train, she was separated from her father and 3 of her siblings. She never saw them again.
That separation of families was a deliberate act of psychological warfare,
It's just awful.
designed to break down social bonds and instill a sense of isolation and despair.
Imagine being 13 years old, surrounded by strangers and suddenly ripped away from your parents.
Not knowing if you'll ever see them again.
Irene and her remaining sister Serena were pushed into a line for women and young children, and she described seeing a chimney in the distance, flames and smoke billowing from it.
She didn't know it at the time, but that was the crematorium where her father and siblings would be murdered.
The Nazis were masters of deception, weren't they?
They were. They used euphemisms and lies to mask their true intentions.
As Irene's line inched forward, she came face to face with a Nazi guard holding a small stick. He motioned for Serena to go to one side, and then sent Irene's mother and two little brothers to the other. They vanished into the crowd, and she never saw them again.
The selection on the ramp at Auschwitz, it was a chilling display of the Nazis' bureaucratic efficiency in carrying out their genocide.
It's just unbelievable.
With a simple gesture, lives were determined, families torn apart, destinies sealed.
It was sheer luck that saved Irene. The fact that she'd been forced to shave her head earlier and the extra layers of clothing her mother had made her wear made her appear older, perhaps old enough to work.
Survival at Auschwitz was often a matter of chance, a random twist of fate in a system designed to eradicate entire populations.
Irene was assigned the horrific task of sorting through the mountains of belongings taken from prisoners as they arrived. Clothing, eyeglasses, toothbrushes, the remnants of lives extinguished.
A constant reminder of the lives lost, the families destroyed, the vast scale of the tragedy unfolding around her.
And remember, she was only 13.
Her experience, while horrific, underscores the importance of listening to these individual stories. They force us to confront the human cost of hatred and intolerance.
It's true. And remind us that history is not just a collection of facts and figures.
It's a tapestry woven from the lives and experiences of real people. It's almost unfathomable to imagine this young girl navigating such horrors, forced to confront the darkest aspects of humanity at such a young age. But Irene's story, it really highlights the resilience of the human spirit.
And that resilience takes so many forms.
Absolutely.
From those quiet acts of resistance to the grand gestures of courage that just defied the Nazi regime.
Absolutely. Amidst the darkness, there were glimmers of hope. Individuals risking their lives to help others.
And stories that remind us of the power of compassion.
Exactly.
Like the story of Nicholas Winton. Here's this guy, a stockbroker, who decided to take a 2-week vacation to Prague in 1938.
Wow.
And what started as a simple trip to help refugees turned into this daring rescue mission that saved the lives of 669 children, most of them Jewish.
It's incredible how one person can have such an extraordinary impact.
I know.
He recognized the urgency of the situation, the threat facing those Jewish children, and took action.
He created an organization out of thin air.
Really?
Yeah, a children's section to a refugee organization that didn't even exist.
Wow, that's amazing.
It was brilliant, though. It allowed him to cut through all that red tape and expedite the process of getting those kids to safety.
And he was willing to bend the rules, too.
Oh, yeah.
To forge documents when necessary.
Whatever it took.
He understood what was at stake.
Right. And talk about resourcefulness.
Yeah.
He found families in Britain willing to take in these children, organized the transports, navigated wartime travel. It was a logistical feat.
It really was a testament to what one person can do.
Sadly, not every story has a happy ending, though.
Right.
That last train carrying 250 more children was scheduled to depart on September 1st, 1939.
Oh, no.
The very day World War II began. It never left the station.
The fate of those 250 children, it's just a stark reminder that even the most heroic efforts can be thwarted.
It's true.
By the forces of history.
It's a sobering thought. And, it's a reminder that individual actions can make a difference, but systemic change is also crucial.
To prevent such tragedies from ever happening again.
Absolutely. All right, ready for another powerful story? Okay, this one takes us to Vilnius, Lithuania, a city once known as a vibrant center of Jewish culture.
Before the war, Vilnius had a thriving Jewish community known for its intellectual and artistic contributions.
Right. The story of the Paper Brigade is just incredible.
Yeah.
This group of Jewish intellectuals understood that the Nazis weren't just targeting people. They were going after their culture, their history.
Erasing their very identity.
And at the heart of that heritage was YIVO, the Yiddish Scientific Institute.
A vast collection of artifacts, documents, and books that represented centuries of Jewish scholarship.
The Paper Brigade knew they had to act fast, so they began this clandestine operation, smuggling these priceless treasures out of YIVO.
Wow.
Hiding them in secret locations throughout the city.
Risking their lives to protect their heritage.
One of their hiding places was an underground bunker, accessible only through a sewage tunnel.
They were literally going underground to save their history.
And it doesn't end there. After the war, the surviving members faced a new threat, the Soviets.
The Soviets.
Yeah. Despite having liberated Vilnius from the Nazis, they were also hostile to Jewish culture.
It's a reminder that the struggle for cultural preservation is an ongoing battle.
So they risked everything to save these treasures from the Nazis, and then they had to protect them all over again from the Soviets.
It shows just how deeply they understood the importance of their heritage.
Absolutely. Okay, let's go back to Irene Vogelweis for a moment. I want to talk about her journey to testify against Oscar Groening,
Okay.
a former SS guard at Auschwitz.
Irene's decision to face one of her tormentors.
It's an extraordinary act of courage.
It really is.
She traveled all the way to Germany for this trial, determined to hold Groening accountable for his role in the Holocaust.
Her testimony, it was about speaking for the millions who could no longer speak for themselves.
And about preventing such atrocities from ever happening again.
Absolutely.
Irene describes seeing Groening as an old man and grappling with the fact that this frail figure was once part of the machinery of death.
That confrontation, it must have been incredibly difficult.
And what's so compelling is she wasn't just there to condemn.
No.
She was there to understand.
Hmm.
She wanted Groening to confront the consequences of his actions, to acknowledge the suffering he had caused.
It speaks to her humanity.
Sadly, Groening showed little remorse.
Oh, wow.
But for Irene, the act of testifying was in itself a form of justice.
Yeah.
It was a way to reclaim her voice, to honor the memory of those who were lost, and to ensure that the world never forgets.
Her testimony serves as a reminder that the fight for justice and accountability is never truly over.
It's true.
Oh.
Okay, we've covered some heavy ground here, but there's one more story I want to share. It's about a young girl named Rutka Laskier.
Rutka Lasker's diary. It's a truly remarkable document. Like Anne Frank, she documented her experiences during the Holocaust.
She was only 14 years old when she started writing in 1943.
Wow.
And she describes the gradual erosion of hope, the constant fear, the dwindling food supplies. But she also writes about her longing for beauty, for escape, for a life beyond those ghetto walls.
Her words are so powerful because they transport us right back to that time.
I know.
They remind us that even in those dark times, the human spirit can still yearn for beauty.
One of her entries reads, "I am completely absorbed with the longing for something beautiful, wonderful, and distant.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
When I'm standing by the riverside and looking at a gushing waterfall, I feel something inside of me being lifted and taken far away."
Even in the midst of confinement and fear, she found those moments of transcendence.
Tragically, Rutka's diary ends abruptly.
Oh, no.
She and her family were deported to Auschwitz in August of 1943
Oh, my goodness.
and murdered by the Nazis.
Rutka's story. It's a powerful reminder of the fragility of life
It's true.
and the importance of preserving these stories for future generations.
Her diary was actually lost for decades, hidden in a wall in her childhood home. It wasn't discovered until 2005,
Wow.
and it's now considered this vital piece of Holocaust history.
The rediscovery of her diary is a testament to the enduring power of these stories.
Absolutely. Their ability to transcend time and connect us to the past.
Her voice, silenced for so long, now speaks to us across the decades.
Reminding us of the importance of memory, of bearing witness, and honoring those who are lost.
It's a sobering reminder of the human cost of hatred and intolerance.
Yeah, it really puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But as tough as these stories are, I think they offer a message of hope, too.
I think so too. They remind us that the human spirit can endure.
Even in the face of unimaginable darkness.
Right, like even when stripped of their freedoms, confronted with unimaginable cruelty, these individuals found ways to hold on to their humanity.
It's true. Think about Irene's determination to testify.
Yeah.
The Paper Brigade's efforts to preserve their culture. They just refuse to be broken.
They refuse to let their oppressors win.
It's a powerful lesson.
It is.
So what does this all mean for us today? How can we apply these lessons of the Holocaust to our own lives and to the world around us?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is vigilance. We have to be aware of the dangers of prejudice and intolerance.
And challenge it.
Absolutely. The Holocaust didn't happen overnight.
It was a gradual process.
Right. A gradual erosion of human rights fueled by apathy and indifference.
It's easy to think it can't happen again. You know, that was then, this is now.
But history often repeats itself if we don't learn from the past.
That's a good point.
We have to be active in shaping a better world, a more just world.
That values diversity.
Yes, and protects the rights of every individual.
It starts with us, right?
It does. It starts with challenging our own biases, educating ourselves and others, and speaking out against injustice.
These stories also remind us that history isn't just in textbooks.
It's not some distant thing.
It shapes our world today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And thanks to places like the USC Shoah Foundation, these stories are going to continue to be shared.
Oh, yeah, I heard about them.
They're using technology to create these interactive holograms of survivors.
Really? Hologram.
It allows people to have conversations with these witnesses to history.
Even after they're gone.
Wow. It's incredible. It's a way to preserve the memory and ensure those voices continue to be heard.
That's amazing technology. What a way to bring history to life.
And to remind us that it's not just about dates and facts.
It's about people.
It's about individual lives and experiences.
It's been a really heavy deep dive, but also incredibly important.
It has been.
I hope our listeners are inspired to continue exploring these stories, to seek out the voices of those who lived through this dark chapter.
And to never forget the lessons they hold for us today.
Because, in the end, their stories are our stories. Their history is our history. We all have a responsibility to make sure the world remembers.
And to work together to build a future where such horrors are never repeated.